I wish those tall ships on Africa's shore had dropped anchor to plant crops there, sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, coffee. Instead, they filled the hungry bellies of holes with Africans and set sail wanting nothing from that big place that was into diamond, gold, ivory, fresh. I wind the clocks back, turn the ships around, not a single bullet, whip, or cutlass sound to deafen our ears for centuries. No Atlantic road of bones from people dumped into the sea to form a wake.
Human family. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy, some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse bemused delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane. I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love and lose in China. We weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Guinea, and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
Welcome to this week's Oberlin Stage Left. Evan and I were preparing for a stage left recital of other repertoire, but we're also preparing for a recording of Valerie Coleman's music. And given that her music seems so much more appropriate this time, we did a bit of a switch. We're still in the midst of a pandemic, but what actually feels much more urgent at this moment is the outrage we're experiencing over a horrifying series of racist events in a very short amount of time, including the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Cooper's vindictive fake allegation of her life being threatened by a black man in Central Park, the murder of George Floyd by white police in Minneapolis. Evan notes that these few were the events that we all heard about. What else happened that just didn't make it to the top of the news cycle in this short amount of time? A grossly disproportionate number of black people have died at the hands of police for decades, so this is nothing new. But the video of George Floyd's murder seems to have been the last straw, galvanizing a much wider public support for the Black Lives Matter movement, for protesting the injustice of America's justice system, and for protesting against police brutality. And I feel like white people like me may finally be understanding that we cannot and should not speak for black people. However well-intentioned we may be, we just haven't lived in a black skin, and we don't fully understand what life experience is for a black person. We don't understand how profoundly discrimination affects everything for a black person. Definitely the burden is on all of us to protest and demand systematic change. It will take all of us to do that, to make that happen. But white folks like me just need to listen. So Evan and I are going to have a bit of a discussion, and we're using notes just to make
Yes,
sure
we are.
make sure we don't leave anything important out.
Yes.
I'm going to start with Evan. I think you're an amazing, amazing musician and a truly wonderful human being, and you happen to be Black. Before we talk about the current situation, I wondered if you would please share some personal experiences that you have had.
Well, first of all, thank you. You're also pretty cool too. um, what's been good is that we've seen a big shift in a lot of people's just awareness, consciousness, all that good stuff, which is great. But you also see a lot of people um, just having a hard time getting it, especially those people that are good, kind, generous, empathic, loving people, right? So I think that's like the majority of like a big group of those kinds of people I think are having the hardest time with it right now. So I think we need to just bring light all the tiny little microaggressions that can be problematic. So little things like if I were to say to a stranger walking through the grocery store or anything like that, somehow we talk about our day, whatever I say, oh yeah, I'm a pianist, whatever. And their first reaction is, oh, how cool, you play jazz? Um, didn't say that, but interesting why that was your first question, right?
Yeah.
If I go to a movie theater for a Met in HD, have you seen Porgy and Bess yet? No. Why did you feel like that was the first thing you needed to say to me? I don't get it. Uh, when right before I moved back here to Ohio, I went to a furniture store with my family to see if, I've never owned a recliner. I said, now's the time I'm going to see if I can get a recliner. And throughout our entire tour of the store, we were followed by the white man that welcomed us the second we walked through the door. All we were doing was we were just sitting in chairs. And, ooh, this one's soft. I don't like this one. That's all we were doing, Um, I have also had a friend who wanted to do a couple jazz songs at the end of her senior recital. You spent 4 years, you've sung every Mozart aria, you've sung every Schubert song, you've played your Bach suite or whatever. And, how cool would it be to, run across the finish line doing something you really want to do? If you go to a school that has an amazing jazz department, take advantage of it. Why not?
Yeah.
And her teacher responded with, I don't think you should do this. That would be lowbrow. It just wouldn't fit well with the rest of your program. And so then that leads you to think, so I can only do spirituals? Okay. Even though there's so much more music out there, also it's not like, people that sing jazz are all of a sudden, destroying their voice with a couple, and then there's another story that I heard just a couple days ago. Someone that I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. She put it publicly already, so I'm just repeating what she's already put out there. She was in a production of Porgy and Bess in Charleston. And Charleston is where that story originates from. And it was super exciting for Charleston because it was the first time they had ever done the production in Charleston. Great. So they are, she and a couple of friends of hers decided to go to a jewelry store downtown for like the after party I think they were having after opening night. And they walk in, she has her Porgy and Bess backseat pass on, and so the owner and her daughter are in there, and she was like, oh my gosh, are y'all a part of the Porgy cast? Yes ma'am, we're here. They're just looking for some jewelry for tonight. And eventually the owner calls her daughter over and says, my daughter's husband's family owned Porgy, and they just loved him. Why do you think that is something a person of color would want to hear you say? So it's things like that. That is why this is happening, right? The list goes on. And so while there seems to be, yeah, exactly. So while there's a lot of noise going on, I just want to encourage white people to really examine why you said a lot of things. And, it might take a minute to think about all, and it might be uncomfortable to think about like, oh, did I do that? Oh man, I probably shouldn't have said that. And I think the tendency for a lot of Black people is when stuff like that happens to us, we immediately call our friends, call our family, and say, I can't believe what so-and-so said to me today, because we are worried about making white people feel uncomfortable. And because, frankly, y'all are everywhere, right? You're our boss, you're our coworker, you're our classmate, you're our teachers, you're our counselors.
So you vent to each other. You don't tell us. You don't.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're already on an island by yourself, especially in a field like classical music. So you always feel like you have to go above and beyond to prove you belong there just as much as anyone else already. So the last thing you want to be labeled as the solo Black guy in the room is you're the sensitive or angry Black guy who can't take a joke. So I can assure you that while we were laughing with you, we didn't really think it was funny. So, yeah.
I am really hoping.
Good times.
Yeah, not. I am really hoping that this time this is truly the beginning of some real change. And I mean, are you hopeful? Do you think this is how do you think this is going to develop?
It changes every day. Today I'm feeling encouraged. Tomorrow we'll see. Just because there's so many new things happening every single day, which is a little scary, but also, it's nice to see the uproar, I guess, I suppose. So what's good about everything is everyone is forced to think about all the little things that are hovering in the back of their mind that they don't realize isn't okay to say, right? Or just like things they may not realize, are a problem. So what you think when you see me walk through that audition room, when you're looking at a job application and you see somebody that has a name that's unique, what are you immediately thinking about that person? They didn't choose their name. I mean, maybe they did, but why does that matter?
Yeah.
So
it's the
more people really think about all that little stuff, I think the further we can go. Yeah.
So if I zero in a little bit more on music and the arts, I mean, obviously there's a lot of work to be done, in rediscovering and shining a light on the work of African-American artists that has been sidelined for, forever. I hope we can encourage everyone watching today to proactively seek out not just music being written now by African-American composers, but, music that was written in the past as well. We have to dig for it, but it's there. I wanted to ask you, the many years of training that classical musicians do is inherently backward looking, studying an oral tradition. As a classically trained musician who has undoubtedly studied a lot of music by dead white guys, do you think do you think we should be reevaluating our syllabi? Really thinking about the collections of pieces we get our students to grow up on, and getting that to be more inclusive.
Right. Uh, so I think with anyone feeling connected to where you're from, in a way feels good one way or another. I think it's a little more exciting for uh, our brothers and sisters of a lighter pigmentation than it is for people that look like me, because it reminds us, of
Mm.
how we got here, but it also reminds us of how many people persevered. So it's just a weird thing to sort of think about, and you go back and forth. At least I do.
Yeah.
Um, but you think about um, all these things that have been passed down. You look through your grandmother's yearbook. You look through, you have a recipe that has come generation through your family. So I don't see any reason why that shouldn't apply to music. And I'm lucky enough to have a mom who uh, is a pianist and an educator in administration, taught for over 30 years.
Wow.
And so I started teaching like full time, like first time I've ever had my own studio, the beginning of this school year. And so luckily I didn't have to go buy any books. I could just steal hers. And so I'm perusing through just like a catalog of one of our top leading educational piano methods books, and I found that there were only three pieces out of 45 in this one series that had pieces written by a Black composer.
Yeah.
So just something, and all these little things start to add up.
Yeah.
So I think you need to look at, double check and see and make sure that everybody's represented, because there are enough people to go around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, following on from that, in the intensely competitive world of classical music that requires a lot of resources to prepare for, there is, predictably a very small percentage of African American musicians. The number is so low, it's ridiculous. There are some orchestras running fellowships specifically for African American players. Do you think African American students need more special consideration?
So, short answer, yes. But I also think we need to look at why there aren't so many of us. I'm no history teacher, but there are a lot of things that you can go back and look, and you can see a lot of systems were put in place to keep us out of whatever the white people were doing. So time goes on, technology develops, things are growing, shifting, developing, whatever. But you still have these systems being put in place. Now everyone's just getting a little sneakier about it. But still, at the end of the day, trying to keep us out. Yeah. So that leads us to not having the same resources as our white counterparts. And so now you have a community who's already not even close to being the majority in the country, with only a fraction of opportunity and access to things. So what do you expect? Of course, there aren't going to be as many of us in the room, right? So, now hopefully you're lucky enough to live near a public school whose communities decided it was a good idea to invest in their music programs, right? But if not, then what? So I think we have to figure out a way to redirect resources and funds in order for people to even feel like they can consider picking up an instrument. Yeah. Fellowships, scholarships. Absolutely. Because when you really think about it, y'all got a 500-year head start. That is a long time. Imagine watching the Olympics and somebody got to finish the route over and over and over again before you even got to start. How could you possibly win that race, right? So if there's a way we can get more Black bodies, just people of color in spaces instead of the one or two that you decide to accept. So you can take a photo that can be in your little brochure, and it looks like your school or your program is an equal opportunist. You know,
Mm.
uh, we have to do more than that. So of course, again, there just aren't as many of us to go around. I get that, but if there's a way that you can help, I think it's important to engage in your communities, see if there's something you can do to get people to even feel like classical music is an option for them.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll get us to you seeing more of us in the pre-screenings, more of us, auditioning for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd add in here. Annie Gordon is an OB alum, a flutist, and she manages the My Cincinnati group, El Sistema and stuff. They do a fantastic job. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Need more of her.
yeah, more of her, more of them.
Yeah.
So more of a practical question. I became much more aware of how difficult it is to locate music by African American people when I was organizing a concert for Black History Month. And so since then, I started working on a database of, listening music, but that really just includes flute because I'm a biased flutist. So
Fair enough.
how do you suggest people find music that isn't included in the standard repertoire books?
It's really hard to find music. So, I remember when I first ever really looked, it was like, okay, all I see is Samuel Coleridge Taylor and Florence Price. And so, I mean, you can't, a Google search goes a long way sometimes. You can find yourself finding more and more stuff. But right now, I actually got a message from a friend yesterday, an old classmate of mine. And she, along with some other friends, are compiling a database, basically, of works, just a list of works of written by historically underrepresented, groups.
Cool.
And so stay tuned. It's very new. I still don't have all the details, but as soon as I, know something, I'll try and figure out how to get that out. And yeah, again, a good Google search.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What I
And if somebody else knows how to find music, Facebook group, whatever, let me know, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all looking, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
also, I think a lot of libraries have at least stuff that at least has a list of works. And maybe, they don't have the music there, but hopefully another library somewhere else will have something or something.
Yeah. It's going to be a collective effort, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my last question, I guess. What advice do you have for musicians and music lovers who want to support the protests going on right now?
So, let me just go back and just talk about the movement for a second. And just things that I, as a Black man in America, think about day to day. Every day I walk out into the world, walk out my little apartment, I am basically putting on a show, because I never wear a hoodie, especially at night when I have to run to the store or whatever. I never have my hands in my pockets because I don't want someone to think that I'm about to pull something out that could be dangerous for a lot of people. I never touch something that I'm not going to buy. I'm always making sure, especially if I'm always looking for the Black cashier, because if I have to go with a white one, I make sure that I speak incredibly clear, because you have to do all the second that I walk through the door. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I do. They don't know who I've studied with. They don't know how many degrees I have or where they're from. They see a big Black man. Ooh, scary, right? So I have to do whatever I can to immediately simmer somebody's assumption of me, you know. So in the last week or so, I've had a lot of conversations with old white friends, and here's what I've told them, because a lot of people, you know, have come with the argument, I don't know what to say, so I'm just not going to say anything. That doesn't work for me. So I think a lot of people, I know when they hear this, going to be like, you sound like a broken record, Evan. But people need to hear it. So I think a lot of people have this misconception that once things got, you know, really crazy, once protests started blowing up all over the place, that we all of a sudden thought that somehow y'all single-handedly had to become the savior of Black America. So for anyone who is struggling with speaking or just knowing what to say, no one can expect you to have a full understanding of an experience that you have never and will never have, right? It's just impossible, right? But by you not speaking up, by not starting to have a conversation with your friends, with your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, your parents, your kid, I already said family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're basically, yeah, exactly. You're basically saying to me that you're willing to participate in a system that you are inherently a part of called racism, because deep down, you know, it's benefited you the most. So by acknowledging the movement, that says to me your ears are open and you are willing to help dismantle the system. Racism is a system, and what it desperately needs is for you not to participate. So all we're trying to do is counteract that. One of the main reasons this is happening is because for so long, nobody has listened to us. That's why, like I said earlier, all of us just talk to each other because we know nothing's gonna get done. So we need y'all's help to change people's hearts and minds. And I know for a fact, well, let me not say that, but I am almost positive there is someone in your friends list, someone who follows you on Instagram or whatever on your email list, that will listen to you before they listen to me, simply because of the color of our skin, which is so stupid. Excuse me. But, you know, you know, lately you hear a lot of people saying silence is violence and justice delayed is justice denied, because the reason people are saying that is because by the time it takes you to figure this out, I'm already dead. Which, you know, not the most lighthearted thing to say, but it's the truth. That's what's going on right now. So if you're uncomfortable, good. Feel that, embrace it, accept it, and do better. Thank you. So, but when it comes to music, I know for myself, it has been really hard to even think about coming close to the piano. I have not felt inspired, or, you know, music for a lot of people is like one of those things that kind of pulls you out of, you know, funk. And, you know, this just felt really different this time for me. So I get it. I get that it's really just hard for a lot of people. And that's fine. So I think it's whatever the case, when you're able to get yourself up out of it, if you just happen to wake up one day and have a little more pep in your step than you did before, make some music. If you are a musician, if you're a writer, start writing. If you're a blah, 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 start doing that thing too, whatever it is. And if you're like me, who's incredibly cautious because um, I don't know about the protests because there's this pandemic that's still around. Just to remind everybody, um, there are pages you can donate to. Uh, Reach out to a musician that might be giving live stream concerts that are helping donate to COVID and Black Lives Matter with funds, or there are things you can do. Everybody has their lane that
Yeah.
they're most comfortable with, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you, Evan. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for sharing. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into Oberlin Stage Left. And I hope you enjoyed Valerie Coleman's music and our performance.